in the center. But gee whiz, we got a question. I'm trying to think, Wendy or I got a question. Hey, can I pull out questions in an interview? I think what they said was a manager friend of theirs told them, I've noticed people coming into my interviews pulling out question cards and asking them, and I've kind of gotten used to it. So it might be okay to do that. No. Let's not have the cart. Let's not have the cart in front of the horse. No. The vast majority of managers would be like, what is this person doing? Bringing out cards? Now you might say to yourself, well, that proves that I'm prepared. Yes. And the person who comes in behind you, who is clearly more prepared than you, that doesn't have to pull out cards and then has every question already memorized because she spent time memorizing them so that no matter how stressful the interview was, she would be able to answer them without looking at her cards. Oh, sorry. No credit for your preparation. You just got trumped by somebody who's more prepared than you.
Yeah, I think pulling him out in the middle of an interview says other things than being prepared, like just not aware of your surroundings or appropriate behavior. Right.
Yeah, as much as we talk about the millennial generation and the whole really lie that's been foisted on large organizations that we need to treat millennials differently as a group, as if we would manage women or Asian Americans differently as a group because they're women. Please don't send me bad mail about that, folks. I don't mean it. It's intended as a joke to suggest that managing any individual as a group member is an inherently, if you'll pardon the expression, soft form of bigotry. But in the same way, this idea that, these young people come in and, well, look, we have parents. There are parents that come to interviews and say, my son, I'm involved in my son's life. If he can't answer one of the questions, I will. And then there are HR people who say, well, I didn't really know what to do. Well, that's easy. Say goodbye, mom.
Right.
Oh, I didn't want to hurt her feelings. Okay. So let me make it easy for you. I'm going to use one of my blackballs, and I'm going to blackball that kid whose mom came to the interview, not because his mom came to the interview, but because you didn't interview him very well. If you let their mom sit in and answer questions, my gosh. Yeah, same thing. Don't pull out your cards. It's as if your mother wrote them for you. Don't do that.
But this is an interview. I think some people might make the mistake. They think this is not an interview. And there are some things that we recommended in the past that you do when you go to an interview. Like, for example, wearing a suit. So are you suggesting in the fact that those things apply as well, wearing a suit to an interview? Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. And let me go even further. Here's what I think. The way to think about assessment centers, folks, is they're an interview on steroids. And what I mean by that is that the assessment center is designed to avoid having a person who is verbally facile and can handle 8 one-hour-long interviews and look good in the beginning. And they want to get past that and find out whether or not you have the stamina that a true professional needs to have. There are people who, even if being interviewed by an interviewer who uses the Manager Tools interview creation tool, for instance, whether or not they've used our interviewing series, although certainly there are people who have, and people continue to write us notes saying it changed their life. But there are people who can game the system and be effective interviews. It's really hard to game the system for 2 or 2.5 days. If you're gaming the system, some of that uncertainty or some of that questionability is going to come out in the assessment center. But it is an interview. The entire thing is an interview. Let me put it this way. Here's a way to think about it. Even if we call it an assessment center, we could call it Candyland. It doesn't matter. If you have failure anxiety about an assessment center that makes it seem like an interview to you, that's all you need to know, and you need to prepare just like you would have for the other thing that causes you failure anxiety, which of course is an interview. Yeah, you wear a suit. You're your best self. If it's held in an office building, a suit is absolutely the right clothing to wear. Look, folks, I don't know. Can I say it again? Even if the invitation says business casual, we had a good friend of ours recently write in, hey, it's a programming company. I don't want to be dumb, but just in case, should I still wear a suit? And I wrote back one word, suit. And the person wrote back, I knew that. Why am I having to write?
And he subsequently told me, said, I can't believe I asked that. I can't believe I
exactly. I look, we're not upset at you. We're just telling you, we're going to be we read all these articles and by the way, from people in creative roles and technical roles and everything else. And they say, no, this is Silicon Valley, or no, this is advertising. No, this is such and such. And then you talk to somebody who's really successful and say, oh no, It's a suit. No, you just wear a suit. That's what you do. You wear a suit. A suit says, I'm taking this process seriously. Okay. Even if you wouldn't wear a suit in your work with that company, you would wear a suit. And a suit means a jacket and trousers or skirt made from the same cloth in the same color and worn with a shirt and a tie or a blouse. A suit is not khakis or chinos and a blazer with or without a tie. That's not a suit. And there are people who say, there are women who say, well, Mark, that's actually suit is a little bit more broad than that in women's fashion. And they're right. They're absolutely right. But I'm talking about a business suit, which is to say matching cloth, bought together, not separates that happen to match or appear to match simply because they're so close. Look, being your best self, being in an interview means you've got to be polite. You've got to be helpful to everybody, including the other candidates. One of my favorite stories is a psychological test that was done on some seminary students who were asked to prepare a presentation on a particular, I want to say on a passage, and I may be misremembering this, but I want to say the passage, they had to prepare a short talk for a group of senior clerical folks or people in the church. And I believe the topic was on the Good Samaritan, the parable of the Good Samaritan, the Samaritan who helps the person who's hurt. And it's all staged at this seminary, and someone rushes in shortly before into the waiting area and says, oh, I'm sorry, there's been a mistake. You have to hurry. You're late. And they leave this waiting area, a conference room or something, to go walk 50 meters or 50 feet to this other room where they're going to have this presentation. And as they leave the room in order to rush to get to their now delayed but totally made up presentation they're having to give, they encounter someone on the path who is in need of help. And no offense, but many of the seminarians walk right by the person because they're too busy. They're late. And I've seen this happen at assessment centers. People think that they're being assessed in the centers. They don't think there's an eye in the sky. They don't think they're being judged. They're being evaluated. They're being tested. They're being put to the ringer every second that they're there, including the hotel the night between day 1 and day 2 or days 2 and day 3. So companies that hold assessment centers usually do so at a couple of levels. At lower levels, there are usually multiple jobs available. I think I said this before. A company might hold an assessment center for a call center where there are 5 or more jobs available for entry level or for a managerial position. The candidates you meet are therefore, think about this for a moment now, folks. They're not entirely your competition. You're being assessed against a standard, and it's the standard you have to beat. It's in your interest to demonstrate your ability to get along with other people. So that's where the politeness, the professional courtesy, the kindness, the decency, the ability to have a conversation with each other and to wish each other well. Hey, good luck. I remember, I'll never forget interviewing at a company and telling somebody, hey, good luck. He's like, well, I don't know, there may be one job. I said, look, I best man wins. I hope you do well. Right? And in my head, I'm comfortable having 2 thoughts in my head. I hope you do well. And dude, I'm going to bury you.
Right.
But the fact that I want to bury you doesn't keep me from saying, hey, do your best. And if in fact my statement to a fellow candidate causes them to step up on the highest platform they ever have, and they beat me fair and square, I'll be the first person to shake their hand. I mean, the world is an abundant place, and I don't feel like I lost. I just think that they won. And there'll be other chances, and I'll get them later.
Yeah.
But me making conversation during the interstitial parts of your day. Holy Toledo. You can't walk out of a session and plop down on the couch and go, that's done. What's next in an hour? Oh, good. We've got some free time. I got to go have a smoke.
When you're helping other people or you're being friendly to others, I assume that the assessors they see that, right? They're making judgments based upon that. It's not simply your skills or how well you do on the test. Always. It's all that stuff.
In fact, a friend of mine who has an Accenture once said, I call our assessment center the land of the raised eyebrow. And I said, what? He says, look, we're walking around all the time mingling. The first day, some of the people don't know who's being assessed and who are the assessors.
Ooh, good
and
point.
you get a bit of a chat. And every once in a while, somebody says something untoward or something that's revealing. And you're like, whoa. And it's just like you mentally raise an eyebrow and then you check their name tag, right? The game is over before it has begun. Now, look, at the other end of the spectrum, companies hold assessment centers for really quite senior roles. Now, usually at that role, there's only one role available, right? There's only one position. More than one is unusual. It happens, but it's unusual. Now, in this case, the other candidates will be your competition if you pass the assessment centers. However, think about it. There's a case to be made that at the senior levels of an organization, everybody is your competition if, in fact, you have the drive to get promoted, because at more senior levels, the width of the pyramid gets the span of control that executives can have is much broader. So there may be 15 people reporting to the CEO. That means 15 people who have wanted that job for a while, or at least 10 of the 15 have wanted that job for a while, are all being considered. You've got to be able to work well with those people, even if you also see them as your competition. But if you treat them like your competition, that will affect your candidacy negatively. And what is wrong with saying, I'm going to do the best I can and may the best person win? Nothing wrong with it. In fact, in my experience, when I've coached executives that I've known that have said, hey, I got to go to an assessment center, I said, hey, good luck with that. And I say, here's some things you need to do. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about here today. And I say, make sure you're kind to everyone, because that kindness that you show will make you slightly more likable to everybody you talk to. You can't go into an assessment center exercise and be brutally trying to dominate and then walk out and be super sweet and nice and then go back in and brutally try to dominate in order to prove that you're the best person. It doesn't work that way. You need to soften yourself to some degree, and it helps being kind to each other and being gracious and offering to help. And if for some reason you have time to go get lunch, offer to bring the other candidates along. Hey, you guys want to go to lunch? Let's talk about how bad this thing is. And I got to tell you, if there are 4 people up for a job and one offers and the other 3 are sitting there and 2 of them say yes and one of them says no, that goes against the one that says no. No, thank you. I've got preparation to do. Okay, fair enough. But if that person doesn't come across as warm and fuzzy in the interviews, she or he is not going to get hired or promoted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now look, at the level we're talking about, more senior level, you've got to be able to build relationships with everybody. It's not just competition. It's easy. This is what it takes to be successful, both the ability to have friction with other people and the ability to work together. And then look, the last point is don't ever forget. And we've already said this 5 different ways, but we'll say it one more time. You're being assessed all the time, folks. Even at lunch, in breaks between exercises, on your cell phone outside the building, your behavior is being watched and assessed.
Wow. No breaks from being assessed.
No. Well, look, if you want to, if you really want the job, it's like, well, I'll work in the mornings, then I'll have a break in the afternoon. No, you're going to be on the job all the time.
It makes sense, right? Because if you're going to fake it, you can't fake it for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
Let your hair
Right?
down at some point. You're going to say something negative, and there it is.
That's what I didn't make as clear as I could have earlier, right? There are some people who can get through an interview or 2. You can't get through a whole assessment center and be up just for the tests or the exercises and then slump around. You've got to have 10 hours on, and 10 hours a couple of days in a row. And if you don't have that in you, it's going to show, and it probably show halfway through the first day. You just can't do it all day. And when you relax, your true self will be seen. Horstman's Wager says attempting to play the interview game is self-defeating, particularly when it comes to assessment centers. If you play and you get an offer, you're then not obligated, but you essentially have a Sophie's choice, if you will, of being yourself or being the person who got you the interview, got you the offer, which is not good. You don't have to be somebody you're not. You can't keep it up that long. And that's part of the reason the assessment center exists, to make it harder so they can feel better and feel that they've made a broader and deeper decision. And they work. Like I said, I've sat in probably 20 of them, and they work over and over and over again. They feel different, and I suspect in years to come, we'll see a greater growing percentage of them. They're hard to prepare, which when you compare the value of the process with the amount of work it takes, those things are at odds with one another. It takes a lot of work to get the high quality. But at some point, more and more companies, I would say 20 years from now, more and more companies will have got on that the single most important thing they do is hire high quality people. We've been saying that for years, of course. Mandatory